Welcome to the channel. Today, we dive into a life-altering medical film from 1998, praised by over 10,000, scoring 8.4. This movie might make you ponder life. The protagonist, after leaving the mental institution, gets into the top medical university in the province within 2 years. On his first day, he faced roommate's pranks. The roommate mocked him for having more wrinkles than teachers. The dean exaggerated during the opening ceremony. Humans are unreliable. Only by being aloof can doctors show their expertise and authority to gain patients' trust. However, Pat didn't hear a word of it because he was totally captivated by the stunning Catherine. After this, he raced after Catherine to strike up a conversation, but she wanted nothing to do with this old dude. This awkward moment was spotted by Truman, and just like that, two unlikely pals were born. Then, Pat told Truman the dean was nonsense. He felt doctors should treat and care for patients. So we need to jump into the crowd and understand humanity to heal each other better. To prove his point, Pat dragged Truman into some silly antics on the streets, interacting with passers-by, while Truman stood by to document this hilarious Clearly, passers-by enjoyed the comedic display, and Truman began to be drawn to this unique guy. Soon after, the duo disguised themselves as seniors to sneak into the hall. As students observed patients, Pat had a whim to ask one for their name. That simple greeting surprisingly eased the patient's anxiety. Pat then wandered aimlessly around the hospital, only to run smack dab into the dean. He quickly ducked into a nearby room, only to find it filled with kids fighting leukemia. Pat approached a little girl's bed, but instead of asking about her condition, he bounced a rubber ball on his nose, transforming into a goofy clown. Next, his exaggerated acts had the girl laughing, drawing in other kids too. The once dull hospital room suddenly transformed into a playground filled with laughter, but alas, the on-duty nurse caught sight of the Pat had no choice but to make a hasty exit, but bad luck struck as he ran into the dean, who sternly reminded him that doctors should be all but don't bother trying to befriend the patients. Being passionate alone won't cut it. Remember, I'm the only one able to make you a doctor, and the dean's threats made it clear no patient interaction until senior year. But he wasn't one to follow the rules. While classmates focused on serious experiments, he was busy using a skeleton prop to create some wholesome chaos, trying every way possible to spread joy. Ironically, this annoyed Catherine and his roommate more. He also strutted in with wacky outfits, cracking smiles even on stern nurses. The kids adored this unconventional doctor, forgetting ailments and finding joy in his presence. Nurses found the work more enjoyable, and when final grades rolled around, the surprises kept coming. Usually diligent, Catherine found herself at the bottom of the rankings, while the carefree Pat excelled. Catherine couldn't help but feel deep admiration for this eccentric individual, filled with eagerness to uncover his study secrets. However, Pat simply reached into his pocket and pulled out a rubber ball, elucidating to her that we shouldn't allow our focus to dwell solely on pain, or even feel it. Catherine clearly doubted him, so Pat made her wear it and then held up a mirror to show her. She burst out laughing at the goofy reflection and began to actually believe this oddball. That night, they snuck into a ward, stuffing a toy gun into the hands of an elderly man on the brink of departure and quietly crafting balloon animals to help him fulfill his dream of hunting on the Africans. A little nurse heard and went to check, but was stopped by the head nurse who had endorsed Pat's therapy. The satisfied old man declared that his life was complete and he could finally leave this world without regret. At that moment, Catherine finally recognized Pat's unique charm. On the way back to the dorm, Pat confessed his feelings to Catherine again, and this time she didn't reject but also didn't answer clearly. Pat staged a show in room 305, chasing gloom with song, only to be flung out by the patient. The head nurse burst into laughter. It turns out someone can humble him, but Pat never gives up. The next day, dressed as an angel, he brought joy to room 305. He approached the patient as a brother, expressing frustration rooted in despair and anger caused by terminal illness and relentless suffering. Pat's unconventional approach opened the door to his heart, and the patient finally burst out laughing. In the days that followed, he kept spreading joy in the hospital, but unfortunately he was caught by the dean again, who was staunchly opposed to this comedic therapy. The dean said laughter raises carotid artery disease risk and may cause blood complications. It could relax the body and boost the heart, but overall it didn't increase patients' cure rates. Even though Pat reasoned well, the dean harshly reprimanded him, stripping him of patient visit privileges and questioning his exam scores. Upon learning that someone had reported him for cheating in his exams to the school, Pat immediately realized that it was his roommate, Fatty, who was behind it all. Upon returning to their dormitory, he confronted Fatty with his suspicions, leading to their first significant interaction coming to an uneasy close amidst tension. Pat, desperate, vented to Truman, only to find his friend sided with the dean. After all, people were suffering and facing death in the hospital, but Pat countered. The truth is, our whole life is racing toward death, but doctor's duty is to enhance, not merely prolong, quality of life. Truman, momentarily stumped, advised Pat to lay low. Days later, the school held a medical lecture with famous doctors, assigning Pat to head reception by the dean. Everyone knew this was the dean's attempt to make him stumble, yet Pat was brimming with confidence, determined to make the venue unique. All guests were taken aback, many wearing smiles. Was this really the dean's prized pupil? However, the dean was clearly... After the lecture, the dean promptly decided to expel Pat, revoking his medical license.